Welcome to Three Things for 28th of April 2023. Pedestrian light observations. On K Road near where I live in Auckland, there are always one or two pedestrians who like to start crossing the road before the pedestrian light changes to green. On weekends, it's usually the homeless that take this risk. Midweek, however, it's all the suit and tie workers that cannot bear to wait the extra 5 seconds for the little man to go green. These people know the rhythms of the pedestrian lights intimately, so it's not like they're in any particular danger. And yet, maybe it's my insatiable need to feel special or different, but when I see a group of people doing something, I become instantly suspicious. Is it worth challenging yourself to think for yourself when it comes to something as harmless as crossing the road a little early? One of the great things about life in this country is we mostly all get to decide for ourselves what to do. So by deciding to stand there on the side of the road like a stubborn mule while everyone around me started crossing the road on the red pedestrian light yesterday, I felt calmness wash over me. It wasn't a sense of superiority, but it might have been a little bit. If we can think for ourselves in small meaningless moments like this, we can do it when the stakes are much higher too. At the previous place I worked, all of my friends bought houses in the time I worked there. However, after running the numbers, buying a house just didn't make sense for my situation. But had I bought a house, like I could have afforded to, and like the whole world was sort of telling me to, I would have been in big trouble when I was the only one of my full-time colleagues that was made redundant a year later. When everyone is doing one thing, be the fool on the hill who stops and asks themselves, yeah, but why? Look for opportunities to do what you would do if no one was looking. Sometimes this means doing the opposite. You might look like a complete lunatic, but don't worry, most of us are too caught up in our own lives to care that much about what you're doing. It's a useful muscle to build because it gives you a backbone to make good decisions for you and your situation, irrespective of what might make sense to 99% of other people. When everyone crosses the road on a red light, take a few moments before deciding what next steps are right for you. It could save your life. Accumulating no's. This week I received a job offer that I was genuinely excited about. During the conversation where I was going to tell them whether I had accepted or not, I asked for a couple of extra things I considered pretty reasonable. Specifically, I asked for assistance with covering the cost of a phone and laptop, were my current phone and laptop to stop working in the course of doing this job. As someone working in sales who spends much of the day on the phone and the rest of the day on the laptop, I thought these were reasonable requests. Both of these things were outright refused, which was disappointing. However, afterwards, I gave myself a big pat on the back for even asking. If you're going through life all the time only hearing yes, you're probably not being bold enough in what you ask for, or worse, never asking for anything at all. I find it helpful to wear the stinging nose on the chin, however humiliating it feels, while also being grateful to myself for deciding to lace up the boots and deciding to step foot in the ring of asking for what I want. My partner could have said no when I asked her to go out with me some 3.5 years ago. If you make it a practice to ask for what you want, you make it easy for the world to give you everything you ever dreamed of. Recording stories of the people you care about. A few years ago, I asked my parents some questions about their lives and recorded their answers, with their consent, of course. Likewise, I'll write in a Word doc called Grandpa's Life Advice whenever my grandpa says something interesting. He's just turned 84 and overall is a pretty happy guy, so I figure it's worth paying attention to what he says. I haven't really lost anyone close to me in my life before to death other than my gran 10 years ago, so I like the idea of capturing moments with the people I care most about. I don't take photographs, there's enough people around me doing that already, but I like taking notes and sometimes video. This past week, I learned about this website called Origin Stories, which does the whole thing for you. They record people's life stories, and I think it's a neat idea. If you want to DIY it, here are the questions I asked my parents when I spoke to them for this purpose a few years ago, taken directly from this article. 1. How did you meet mum or dad? 2. What advice can you share with me about money, life and happiness? 3. What does being a mum or dad mean to you? 4. What are you most proud of? And 5. How would you like to be remembered?